Life is like a roller coaster ride. It's thrilling, unpredictable, and there's always a chance you'll lose your lunch. But just like riding a roller coaster, you can only appreciate life when you look back and see how far you've come without throwing up. That's where these ancient photos come in handy. They're like a time machine, taking us back to a simpler time when people didn't have the luxury of capturing every moment on their smartphones. Sure, some of the pictures might make you scratch your head and wonder what the heck was going on, but it's worth it to see how much the world has changed. Flying Southwest in the 1970s, it's amazing how much the airline industry has changed. Now we call stewards and stewardesses flight attendants. Plus, you don't have to be young, single, and childless to apply. Back in the 1970s, though, Southwest Airlines had a different approach. Their flight attendants wore hot pants and go-go boots as part of their uniform. Let's just say their uniform was definitely turning up the heat. And if that wasn't enough, their drinks had names like Love Potion and Passion Punch. With all those suggestive names, you might need to take a cold shower after your flight. Sweet dreams and shelter beds. In the midst of World War II, the UK was under constant threat of German air raids that rained down destruction and terror. As a result, a good night's sleep became a distant dream for many Brits who were forced to abandon their beds and seek refuge underground. The Morrison shelter was a savior during these trying times, offering a compact and sturdy space for families to hunker down and weather the storm. And with a name like Morrison, it's no wonder this shelter was a hit among the locals. Best of all, these life-saving shelters were provided free of charge to households on the lower end of the income spectrum, proving that even in the darkest of times, the UK government had its citizens' backs. The dry cleaning business that staffed firefighters. This photo isn't showing a Roman warrior, but rather a fierce fighter from the Achilles Ladies Brigade. Don't let their dainty name fool you. These ladies were tough as nails and ready for action. They were part of the Achilles dry cleaning empire, which was so successful it had more branches than a tree, and even had its own lady-powered fire brigade. That's right, move over hunky firefighters, because these ladies were the real heroes putting out the flames of fashion emergencies across the UK. Giving new meaning to mobile home. In the olden days, people had to get creative when they wanted to move their entire house to a new location. This was especially true for families who couldn't afford to build a brand new house from scratch. Talk about moving on a budget. Even city slickers in places like San Francisco had it tough back then. High taxes, crop failures, job shortages, and famine meant that folks were always on the move, looking for greener pastures. It's a good thing that these movers didn't charge by the mile. Stocking shortage inspires women to paint their legs. As the 20th century progressed and women's skirts became shorter, their desire for stockings grew longer. In the 1920s and 1930s, silk or rayon stockings were all the rage. But by the early 1940s, nylon stockings had taken over. However, when the United States entered World War II, nylon production was shifted towards military use, leading to a shortage of stockings. Women had to get creative, resorting to painting their legs to mimic the look of stockings. And even after the war ended, the trend of painted-on stockings persisted, proving that fashion truly knows no bounds. Free babysitter. This quick-thinking mom knew how to improvise when she needed a break. In a stroke of genius, she used a nearby empty trash bin to keep her baby safe while she took a breather. Back in the 60s, this was a common occurrence, but imagine trying the same thing in a modern-day park. People might raise an eyebrow or two and accuse you of child neglect. How times have changed. Portable changing booths. 1938. Beat the crowds and skip the changing room hassle with these nifty portable changing booths. These two savvy women at Kenai Island in New York City had the right idea. No more squeezing into overcrowded rooms or walking long distances just to change. With these lightweight and easy to set up booths, you can enjoy a private changing space anywhere you please, even on the busiest of beaches. Waking people up for a living. In the olden days, before the invention of alarm clocks, people in Britain and Ireland had to rely on a strange breed of individuals called knocker-uppers to make sure they didn't sleep through their work. These knocker-uppers would knock on windows with sticks, bamboo poles, or batons and get paid a few pennies a week for their services. It was a unique profession that thrived during the Industrial Revolution. But as alarm clocks became more affordable and reliable, knocker-uppers slowly disappeared from the streets. However, some eccentric neighborhoods in England clung on to the knocker-upper tradition well into the 1970s. Old-fashioned swimming lessons. Swimming isn't a skill that can be mastered overnight. It takes time, practice, and a great deal of determination from both the teacher and student. Ask any parent who has taught their child to swim and they'll tell you it's no easy feat. A baby in a baby cage. In the early 20th century, it wasn't unusual to see babies dangling in cages outside city apartment windows. While it might sound like a dangerous stunt to pull, these so-called baby cages were actually meant to give infants a breath of fresh air and a little bit of sun. Although it might seem barbaric today, at the time, it was considered an innovative approach to promoting infant health. Eventually, though, people began to realize that there might be some drawbacks to hanging your baby outside your apartment window, such as pollution and the risk of falling. Women at a hair salon. 1937. The good old hair dryer. It's come a long way since French stylist Alexandre Godefroy attached a bonnet to a gas stovepipe in 1890. That must have taken forever to dry one's hair. Thankfully, handheld hair dryers were introduced in 1920, but it wasn't until the 1950s that rigid hood hair dryers made their debut. These are the ones that make you look like you're wearing a space helmet. But hey, they're still a go-to tool for hairdressers everywhere. Execution by a firing squad. In this picture, we see a German general named Anton Dossler who is being tied to a pole for his execution by a firing squad. The photo was taken in Italy in December 1945, after Dossler was found guilty and sentenced to death by the American military for his involvement in war crimes during both World Wars. Vintage selfies. Back in the day, when people wanted to take a picture of themselves, they didn't have the luxury of a front-facing camera on their smartphones. Instead, they had to lug around a big, clunky camera and snap a photo with the speed of a sloth. This hilarious selfie captures the struggle of taking a picture with an ancient analog camera with the help of not one, but two burly men. It's like the original arm extension stick, but way more primitive. Roller skates from 1910. Roller skating has come a long way since its invention in 1760 by John Joseph Merlin. It's hard to imagine roller skating without the rocking skate, invented by James Plimpton in the 1800s, which turned roller skating into the cool activity it is today. There have been many other versions of roller skates over the years, including the tachypod, invented by Edvard Petroni in the 1900s, which was like a bike on wheels. Sadly, the tachypod never quite caught on and never became the ultimate hipster mode of transportation. First video game tournament hosted by Atari. From Pong to Fortnite, the video game industry has leveled up. Once upon a time, video games were considered a niche hobby for geeks and gamers, but now they're a multi-billion-dollar industry that has dominated the entertainment world. In the 80s, Atari Inc. organized the first ever video game tournament, the Space Invaders Championship, and it was a smashing success. Over 10,000 gamers from all across the United States signed up, making competitive gaming a force to be reckoned with. The Fairchild K-17 camera. During the Second World War, the Fairchild Camera and Instrument Corporation designed a massive camera called the Fairchild K-17, which was manufactured under license by Falmer Graflex for the U.S. Air Force. These cameras were used primarily for aerial photography. The K-17 with a 12-lens cone and full magazine weighed a hefty 55 pounds, while the K-17 with a 24-lens was an even more impressive 75 pounds. Another camera that served a similar purpose in the 1940s was the Kodak K-24. It's safe to say that these cameras definitely weren't designed for taking selfies. First New York Fashion Week. The inaugural New York Fashion Week debuted in 1943 amidst the approaching World War II. While fashion shows had been held for a long time, this event was unprecedented in its lavishness and size. Its enduring legacy would come to symbolize fashion and style for generations to come, as well as signify social elitism on a global level. Log Lodge Tavern. In the 1940s, the good people of Dallas were scandalized by the trend of car hops wearing skimpy outfits. But fear not, for a group of brave men decided to take matters into their own hands or legs. Rather, these heroic gents donned their shortest shorts and their finest cowboy boots to serve a car of women at a local drive-thru, showing the world that men can also look fabulous while delivering burgers and shakes. Built-in record player. Back in the day, if you didn't have a highway hi-fi in your car, you might as well have been riding a horse and buggy. Even the rich and famous couldn't resist the allure of this technological wonder. Check out soccer star Mike Summerby flexing his 1967 Volvo P1800 with a built-in record player. Talk about keeping it classy on the road. Princeton tradition. The annual snowball fight at Princeton University in the late 1800s was no joke. In fact, it was more like a battle royale. This epic photo from 1893 shows three brave or foolish freshmen who had just emerged from the fray looking like they had gone 10 rounds with Mike Tyson. And no wonder, their opponents were packing some serious heat in the form of rocks hidden inside their snowballs. It's no wonder the upperclassmen stayed far away from this madness. They knew it was a recipe for disaster. Conrad Veidt. The inspiration for the Joker. There are conflicting stories about the origins of the notorious Batman villain, the Joker, but it is generally accepted that actor Conrad Veidt's appearance was used as a reference. Veidt played the lead in the 1928 movie adaptation of Victor Hugo's novel The Man Who Laughs, and his portrayal is said to have influenced the creation of the Joker. Unfortunately, Veidt's performance in the film has been lost to history, but the Joker lives on. Testing a football helmet, 1912. Looks like this guy is taking a head-on approach to testing the durability of his helmet. With onlookers grinning in amusement, it's hard to tell whether he's brave or just a bit bonkers. Either way, let's hope modern-day helmets have come a long way since then in protecting athletes' noggins. And that's it for our hilarious photo journey through history. I hope you had as much fun as I did. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our community of laughter-loving history enthusiasts. Thanks for watching.